California governor, signed into law on Friday a $50 million allocation designed to fortify the state's legal defenses against the Trump administration's policies and to provide legal support for immigrants facing potential deportation. This decisive action divides the funding equally. $25 million is earmarked for the California Department of Justice, DOJ, to engage in legal battles contesting federal actions, while the remaining $25 million will be channeled to legal organizations dedicated to representing immigrants threatened with deportation. This significant financial commitment reflects the ongoing tensions between California and the federal government under the Trump administration, a period marked by numerous legal clashes. During Trump's first term, California actively challenged numerous federal policies, initiating or joining over 100 legal actions against the administration. These disputes spanned a broad range of issues, including environmental regulations, water resource management, and immigration enforcement. The resurgence of these conflicts in Trump's second term underscores the continuing need for robust legal defense mechanisms. Assembly Speaker Robert, a Democrat, articulated the rationale behind this funding allocation, stating, "Californians are being threatened by an out-of-control administration that doesn't care about the Constitution and thinks there are no limits to its power. That is why we are delivering legislation that will allocate resources to defend Californians from this urgent threat." This statement powerfully underscores the perceived threat posed by the federal government's actions and the state's determination to counter them. The timing of this legislation is noteworthy. It followed Governor's recent trip to Washington, D.C., where he engaged in discussions with President Trump and congressional representatives to secure federal assistance for the devastating wildfires that ravaged Los Angeles County in January, resulting in over 24 fatalities. The state has already committed $5 billion in state funds for fire relief efforts, covering expenses such as evacuations, providing shelter for survivors, and managing hazardous waste removal. The administration anticipates federal reimbursement for these substantial expenditures. However, the allocation of funds for legal battles has drawn criticism from Republican lawmakers. They contend that this focus on legal challenges against the Trump administration constitutes a distraction from the critical needs of the Los Angeles area in its recovery from the wildfires. State Senate Minority Leader Jones, a Republican, issued a statement describing the funding as a slush fund, a political stunt designed to distract from the urgent issues our state faces, and it won't bode well for fire victims. Concerns have also been raised regarding potential misuse of the funds. Critics have questioned whether safeguards are in place to prevent the use of these resources to defend immigrants without legal status who have been convicted of serious felonies. Governor addressed these concerns after signing the legislation, asserting that the funding is not intended for such purposes and suggesting that further legislative action could be taken to clarify this restriction if deemed necessary. In his statement, he emphasized that the funding will assist legal groups in safeguarding the civil rights of California's most vulnerable residents, carefully framing the intended beneficiaries. The decision to establish this substantial legal defense fund reflects Governor's proactive approach to defending California's interests. The plan was announced shortly after Trump's November election victory, prompting the governor to convene a special legislative session to expedite the passage of the necessary bills. California's history of challenging federal actions under the Trump administration is well documented. The state's attorney general's office reports that during Trump's first term, California filed over 120 lawsuits against the federal government, incurring approximately $42 million in legal costs, with annual expenditures ranging from $2 million to nearly $13 million. This extensive history of legal conflict contextualizes the significance of this new $50 million allocation, representing a sustained commitment to defending California's policies and its residents from perceived federal overreach. The sizable expenditure reflects the state's unwavering determination to protect its interests and the rights of its residents in the face of what it views as aggressive and unconstitutional federal policies. The long-standing and ongoing legal battles between California and the federal government highlight a fundamental tension between state and federal authority, with California consistently asserting its right to challenge policies it deems harmful to its citizens. The allocation of $50 million is a clear indication of the state's commitment to pursuing these legal challenges vigorously.